A lot of people think renting an inherited house is the smarter, safer choice. But in a lot of cases, it ends up costing people a lot more money and a lot more stress. If you've recently inherited a property and you're trying to decide what to do with it, this video is going to walk you through how to actually make the right decision based on your situation. I'm Ann with Flock and Company Real Estate, and my brother Adam and I specialize in helping families who inherit homes. Back in 2021, our father passed away, leaving us a property out of state. And then unexpectedly, a few months later, our mom passed away, leaving us her house in the state of Florida. So we built Flock and Company to help families go through the process that we went through ourselves. First and foremost, just because you've been left a property, you need to determine the ownership status and the probate status. Can you even legally rent or sell this property right now? You need to know, are there multiple heirs? Sometimes it's simple, sometimes it's not. I was working with a seller who thought she was the sole heir to her mother's property, and when the homestead order was returned, it came up with two additional heirs, preventing her from moving forward. Then you run into, if one person wants to sell and one person wants to rent, you have to get that figured out within your family. So sometimes the best option, it doesn't matter if you're ready or not, it matters whether or not you have the authority to do something. Then you need to decide what is driving your decision. Is it emotional, holding on to the house because you're just sentimentally attached to it and not ready to let it go? Renting it can feel like it's keeping it in the family, but it does turn the home into a business. And tenants don't treat your property like family. And I know sometimes selling can feel final, but sometimes it brings relief and closure. So it's not just financial, there's also the emotional and operational piece. I know, for instance, with our dad's house, Adam and I thought, let's get it fixed up and rented. But we did quickly learn that the people who were living in the house weren't quite taking care of it the way they hoped it would be. Not to mention how much it cost us to get it to that point. But you can hear that story in another video. So let's be clear, I'm not against renting. Sometimes there are scenarios where it works out really well for the families involved. For instance, if there's light repairs and you don't mind running the operation behind it, you don't mind collecting the rent, you don't mind going into the property to fix things when they need to be fixed. And some people really don't mind that. But sometimes I don't think everyone knows the true cost of renting, because I know I sure didn't until we actually did it. There are vacancy periods where there's 0 months where rent is being collected, and then your responsibility for whatever payments that you need to make towards the house. If you don't self-manage, you need to include a property management fee of usually 10 to 12%. I know firsthand there's always maintenance surprises, where whether it's HVAC, roof, plumbing. We had a foundation surprise come up. Insurance increases, landlord policy versus a homeowner insurance. And the property taxes increase because the property is no longer the person who's living there homestead. So be prepared for the property taxes to increase. And then there may be capital expenditures over time, or if your loved one bought the property for $100,000 and now it's worth $350,000, but when you're done renting it, it's worth $400,000, you're going to be taxed on that. Okay, so it's just different situations for different people. Something else important to think about are the current market conditions. When Adam and I inherited our mom's house, we initially toyed with renting because the house was ready to go. It was completely rentable, and we actually could have made enough money to be profitable because we inherited a property that had no mortgage. However, we were also in a peak selling time where we knew we were going to make a profit when selling it. So we decided that even though the rental demand was still good, because the value of the property at the time was so high, it made more sense for us to sell it. And I do have another video on our mom's property about why we made the decisions that we did. But I can help you, my brother can help you look at both sides to help you determine where your market is at right now. If the property you are inheriting needs a lot of work, I'm talking not just a basic paint job or a refresh, but if you need to spend probably anywhere over $10,000, I would say, on getting the property ready to rent, in my opinion, it's not worth fixing up. You just don't get the money back until you sell the property. Um, and there are people out there looking for properties that need a lot of work, whether it's investor buyers, direct buyers, and then there are some families out there who want a fixer upper to get the value from the property later on. Um, so you don't need to fix everything before you sell. You can sell it as is, and as long as you're understanding that you're paying somebody else to do the work when they buy it, you'll be able to sell it directly to another buyer, which is usually for a lot less than what market value is. But that's because the person who's buying it is investing in fixing it up, not you. I know I briefly mentioned before taxes, but just keep in mind the step up base is a big opportunity when selling, as well as keep in mind now it's an income producing property, so there are taxes involved with that. Future sales could involve capital gains plus depreciation recapture. So I'm not a CPA, and the finances and the taxes are not my strong suit, but these are just conversations you should be having with a CPA before you decide to rent the property. You also need to keep in mind that this is a time and lifestyle commitment. Are you local or out of state? I found it being very difficult to be out of state and needing to trust the property management companies and other people to do what they needed to do for the property. If you are in state and you're deciding to manage it yourself, are you fine with tenant phone calls, constant repairs? I'm talking constant repairs. Everything that needs to be done, you will be contacted about. And hey, if that doesn't bother you, that's great. I just know on my end, it became overbearing. Leasing cycles. Again, we mentioned that there will be times when people aren't in there and you will be paying for everything with the property. And turnover, when a renter moves out, the things you need to do to get the property able to be rented again. So it is like a part time job. And if that's what you're looking to do, that's fantastic. But if that doesn't sound good to you, it's just something good to know ahead of time. So, to keep it simple, this is just my professional opinion after going through it. But if the house you inherit needs a lot of work, then I would lean towards selling it as is. You can either list it on the market as is, or you can sell it to a direct buyer as is. If there are light repairs and low to no mortgage, and you're a willing landlord, you can explore selling it as long as all the numbers make sense. If it's somewhere in between, run both scenarios. Then keep in mind about how long you want to rent it. Is there a plan to sell it later and what that would mean? Sometimes tenants can delay selling, they can impact the condition in the house, and they can affect timing. We recently were selling a property in Illinois where the tenants did all three of those to us. We couldn't get the property sold, they wouldn't let people through the door, and then they turned around and basically destroyed the inside. So we had to repair it again before we could put it back on the market, and it ended up costing us a lot of money. So, if you're trying to decide what to do with a house you inherited in Central Florida, we can walk you through both of your options, renting versus selling, using real numbers based on your property. You can call or text us and we'll help you figure out the next step.